Hello, all of you out there in podcast land. It's me again, your host, Rudrani Devi, for the Get Happy podcast. And today I am super delighted to have the fabulous, handsome, sexy. Oh, I feel sorry for you guys only listening to this, because if you could see him, you're going to have to jump over to the YouTube. I'm talking about Bret Rockmore, and he is such a phenomenal being. And I'm so grateful that you're going to be on our call today.
Thank you, Rudrani. Thank you. It's so amazing to see as you put the Choosing Happy book out. Is that it's called Choosing Happy, right?
It's called Choosing Happiness here.
Oh,
Props for
Choosing
those of you that are
Happiness.
watching.
I left off the nest. How could I have done that?
Oh no, it's okay. The book doesn't have a point of view about that, so it's no worries.
Good.
And the podcast is called Get Happy, so
Yes, well, I just love that you've tackled this area of happy because you are a great person to be doing it. You are just one of those people who is just kind of happy wherever you are, whatever's going on, and it's amazing.
I'm kind of a happy idiot. It's
Yeah.
true. He's being very kind, y'all. It's like I can be happy no matter where I am,
Yeah.
and it used to really bother people, Brett. It was really a problem. They're like, what kind of drugs are you on, lady?
Yep.
And I've kind of been coined the happy lady, but
Mhm.
I guess there could be worse things to be called.
Yeah, that's a great thing. I mean, it is horrible to people who enjoy being miserable because, oh gosh, there's that happy lady. It actually reminds me of this story when Georgia, my girlfriend, and I, this is maybe 7 years ago, where we had just moved to Houston and we had to get our driver's licenses and or social security cards, something like that.
Right.
And so we went to the social security office, and we go in there, and like everyone in there is so miserable, and we're going through the lines, we're just being us, and this lady who was working there was trying to get our attention, and we didn't get she was talking to us until she went, "Hey, you happy people." And then literally when she did that, every single person in the place turned to us and were like, "Happy people, what the fuck? Like, what do they do? Can I curse on this show?"
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, you absolutely fucking can.
okay, thank you. It was like we were like pariahs. Like we were like, "Oh God, it's happy. Don't get too close to them," because
It might rub off. I don't know.
exactly. And then later we realized, like, oh, they're all in line for like Social Security, so like they want to get their checks, so they have to all prove that they're like not doing well.
Right. So the persona is I have to look miserable or I won't get my money. That's an
Exactly.
interesting choice, isn't
Yeah.
it?
So they're like, what are you guys doing? You guys aren't going to get your money.
Wow. Wow. I love that story. I might have to use that story. Do
Yeah,
you mind if I use
feel
it?
free.
Like,
Yes, use anything.
because
Yes.
I have a Choosing Happiness book club. It's actually an introduction to access consciousness, which that's the movement that Brett and I. That's how we know each other, because we're both part of this fabulous access consciousness movement. And so I'm so delighted. But here's something I want to point out, because you acknowledged it in me that you're like the right person to be doing the get happy and all of that.
Yeah.
It's funny because when I look at you, I perceive that about you. You're always so light and cheerful, no matter what the circumstances are, and I've enjoyed so much. Uh, I don't know, just watching you be the happy you be, because you definitely embody happy. So just want to acknowledge that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yes. I too am happy. I'm a happy idiot. I had growing up, I had all the time people would like. I grew up in Long Island in New York. Not the most kind and gentle, snuggly place to be in the world.
You don't have the accent. You don't have the New York Long Island accent. Where is this?
Talk about get some bagels, get some donuts, get some coffee.
There it is.
I never had the accent. It's one of those things, like that's one of those things for me that I know, like, that choice is actually real. Like I grew up surrounded by people with the Long Island accent, and I never got it.
Well, same. I think we might be twins, Brett, because I live in the South, and
Yeah.
yet I don't talk like this neither.
That's true.
My older brother talks like this, and his girlfriend talks like this, but I ain't got no accent. And in fact, when I put it on, they tell me, "Oh my gosh, that's horrible. You don't sound anything like us." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I can't quite pull it off." So here we are, we're jibber jabbering, and you guys don't even know who this fabulous man is. But Bret, would you mind terribly just introducing yourself to our listeners? Tell them who you are, what you be, what you do, all the things.
Yeah. So I am Bret Rockmore. That my last name is a fake last name. I grew up
I
as in
didn't know that.
yeah, uh-huh. Yep, I chose it. Yeah, because it's my quote unquote like birth last name is so complicated, and there are only two people who ever got it like it correct like my entire life, that I was like, as I started doing all this stuff where like I was having people like try to start to find me, I'm like, how are people going to find me if they can't spell my last name?
Right?
So yes,
Oh,
so
cool. You reinvented yourself.
yes, I did. And the other thing, I grew up like but one half of my family was Catholic and the other half of my family was Jewish. And in order to yeah, I know, right?
How'd you get away with that?
I
I mean, I'm Italian, so both of my mother and my father, I mean, generations of Catholicism.
yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of a cool creationship. What was that like? I mean,
Well, it's my parents were both not very religious in terms of like doing the rituals, the pomp and circumstance of either Catholicism or Judaism. But culturally, it was very highly Jewish centered. Having a Jewish mother, that's a very intense
oh
thing.
yeah, I can only imagine. So she was kind of the boss.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly. Yep.
okay, cool.
Yes. And so even though my dad was raised Catholic, he still functioned more like a Jewish person than not, which I found very weird. Cuz yeah, cuz I ended up I read the book Portnoy's Complaint, which was suggested to me by the founder of Access Consciousness, Gary Douglas, and he'll give books and movies and stuff for you to gain awareness on the things
Sure.
that you're choosing in your life that you might not be aware of that you're choosing. And so I read this book and I was like, this book was like my childhood. It's so weird, it's so funny at the same time. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to read a very funny book about like being Jewish in America.
Very interesting. I don't know. It's pinging for me to actually read it because I have a sense that it's a lot like being Catholic from Italy and being here. Because my dad's parents are from Italy. My mom actually came when she was 18,
Mhm.
arranged marriage, and lived the rest of her life here. So 70 years of her life was in the States. So might be an interesting read for me as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in that, I also forgot to say the part that I am a Access Consciousness certified facilitator, and it's like I just love, yay, it's and access for me is the one thing that I found that had changed pretty much everything for me all the time. It's just kind of amazing because I most people don't even know this about me, but maybe a year before I found access, I was like very ill. Like I was like terribly ill to the point where like I had started developing all of these environmental sensitivities.
Hmm.
And basically I was like locked in my room for like a couple like, well, it went on over the course of a year, but the last maybe 4 or 5 months I was just in my room. Every time I had to go outside I had to wear a mask, which I mean, everyone does now. So I was just about 10 years ahead of my time.
Right. That's funny. I
Yes.
mean, it's not funny that you had all those environmental things, but
It's funny now because it's just amazing because once I went to all sorts of doctors and they were telling me, like, you're gonna have to learn to live with this, and there's nothing we can do to change this. And I was like,
wow.
shit. Either, and then one time when it was getting cold. I was going to the bathroom outside. And
Okay.
I know, and I was like, well, you know what? Because there were all these different smells in the house that I would react to and stuff like that. And
Wow.
and yeah, my body would have these reactions and stuff. And so I went, you know what? This either changes or I'm just like, I'm out, like I'm done. And I ended up I started finding this like energy work stuff that started working. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And then the lady I did these sessions with was like, hey, I think you would really like this. And she sent me a recording of not a recording, but like a telesummit thing that Dr. Dane here had done.
The co-founder of Access Consciousness,
Yeah.
y'all. Okay.
Yes. And I was like, literally, she sent it to me, and I was like, oh, doctor. Oh, God, what's a doctor going to tell me? At this point, I did not like doctors because
Oh,
I had gone to a lot of them. And they all told
yeah,
me,
yeah, and they all told you couldn't change it, so I can
yeah,
understand that. Cool.
exactly. And then 3 days later, I listened to it after being like, oh, doctor. And it was like 5 minutes, and I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. And I ended up over the next couple months changing everything that had been going on, and I had never no symptom or anything has ever shown up since, and it's been over 10 years now.
Wow. That's an amazing story. And no, I did not know this. And that's and thank you, because that's a real contribution for those of you out there in the world that think you cannot change your world, even if it's something physical. Guess what? It is just a choice and you can change it. I mean, it's interesting you said the little story about the mask, because right before Global Foundation in Brazil, we're
Mhm.
talking 2 years ago, y'all, around February of 2 years ago. I had gotten really sick with they said they diagnosed it as double pneumonia and bronchitis.
Wow.
And, my lungs were crystallizing. I couldn't smell or taste. Doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound like COVID? This was before COVID. And then finally my doctors said, we think you actually had COVID before it mutated or whatever, which COVID's been around for years and years and years and years and years. It mutates into different types of viruses and all that through the years. The body gets resilient and then it creates itself another way. At least this is my knowing of it.
Yeah.
But I would have been considered a long hauler. And I was wearing the mask out in the world before anybody else, and had actually bought several different ones, cute ones, because I could perceive that I was going to have to wear them for a while. And little did I know, futurist,
Yeah.
that I was protecting everyone else, because
Yeah.
all the things. That's so funny.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh. That's
So is it
amazing.
all the body processes that actually, and then finally I unwound it all through Access Consciousness and all the things. I could get into that story, but that's not for now. I'm just curious, because you certainly learned bars, which is like the first step in Access. It's kind of prerequisite to a lot of the other classes. But were there other body processes that you used that got you over your environmental allergies?
Well, it was a big mix of a lot of stuff. And the some of the greatest change to what I was actually doing was actually to acknowledge where I'd actually created it.
Oh,
So yeah, and so that was the biggest thing, because if your point of view creates your reality. Your reality doesn't create your point of view, and like that's really how powerful we are. And it took me to have this very outrageous, dramatic example to get that the point of view that you take about something is what you actually actualize. So for me, when I started doing this work and and Access and asking questions and stuff, and come up with I had gotten the awareness that I started getting the awareness of different things I had chosen to start creating this thing. um and I don't have to go into all the reasons and stuff, but that's one of the cool things is when you start actually taking the power back for you, basically, where you come out of being the victim to something that's happening to you and be like, oh, I actually chose this. So if I chose this, what else could I choose to undo this?
right. I love that you said that. I remember talking to Gary when I was having all these, because similar to you, I swear, I think we're twins. I don't know. How many lifetimes have we been twins? But I had a lot of allergies. I
Yeah.
was allergic to horses and dogs and dust and 8 kinds of molds and flowering plants and all the things. And I was on all this medication. And I remember going to Gary Douglas and going, I am sick of this. This is making me crazy. And he said, well, don't let it make you crazy. He goes, what can you choose? And I said, well, I'd like to choose out of it. And he goes, what do you love about it?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a potency you're not willing to look at? And so he finally told me to do homeopathy. He gave me some clearing statements, and I diligently started doing this homeopathy, to get rid of all this trauma drama in my life. And I didn't realize that I was actually taking a lot of things. Here, I consider myself a holistic therapist, and yet I was taking birth control and 2 different kinds of things for allergies and migraine meds and Advil PM just to get to sleep and all this stuff. And I thought, wow, that doesn't sound very holistic of me, does it? I go to the homeopathist, and this is what I discovered. When we take all these things, it actually suppresses and keeps all that stuff in place in your cellular memory.
Mm-hmm.
And what I had done was, from all the trauma drama from my childhood and abuse, and oddly, not from what happened in India, which some of you guys know about, but I'm going to stick with the original story here. Once I started to get off of all these medications and was taking all these drops, my body was allowed to actually unwind all this cellular memory. And I got diagnosed with PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
post-traumatic stress disorder. So I started having flashbacks, and my body was doing some weird moving and all of this. And then Heather Nichols, who we both know and love, she used to, in the life before Access Consciousness, she was a therapist, and she said, honey, your body's ready to let go of these things. Can you not be in judgment of it and allow it to happen? So I would let my body go, and I would be like, like moving. And after 10 or 15 minutes, it would simmer down. And within 4 months' time, I was able to unwind everything. I don't even take an Advil anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I work out and I have pain. Yay. It's like my body's telling me that it's getting muscles or whatever it is. But it's amazing what we do to create these ailments in our world, and we don't think that we can change them. So I'm loving this conversation so much. I didn't realize we had this kind of a similar story.
Yeah.
But you said also in your house you had problems with things smelling. Is that
Yeah.
why you would go outside to pee? I mean, I'm sorry, that's just sticking in my mind. Like, oh my God, you can't even pee in your own house?
Yeah, I was basically at that point, my parents thought it'd be a good idea to get new windows. Like, while this was going on, while these environmental sensitivities were starting, and it's like the paint on it was just like way too much for what was going on with me at the time. So I basically like locked myself in the only room that didn't have new windows. And yeah, it was intense, because through that my sense of smell like grew tremendously, and I would like walk into a room or a place, and I would smell things that like people wouldn't even dream of smelling. Like, I'd go into a store and I would know exactly what kind of like cleaner they used on their floors.
Oh my God, well,
Yeah.
that's very strange talent and ability,
Yeah.
Brett. Can you acknowledge that?
Yeah,
Does
exactly.
that still happen though?
Not really, no, it hasn't, because I didn't need it anymore after I got over this thing. So yeah. So it was amazing. It was amazing, because during that whole time, actually, one of the things I wanted to talk about was, even during that whole time of going through that illness and other stuff, I was still choosing to mostly be happy.
Huh. Wow.
Which is a very bizarre thing, that you would think I would be miserable and stuff. Like, no, I was just kind of like happily going through it and like choosing what I can, and still being worried about things in the future, and like still being miserable sometimes when my body would like react to things, but generally being happy. And it was very, very bizarre to a lot of people.
We're the same person. I'm telling you what. Seriously. I mean, what's interesting is, I wrote that book, Choosing Happiness.
Yeah.
It's my third book, actually.
Oh,
And
cool.
and it speaks 3 languages. I'm so proud of it. She's really outdone herself. And I wrote that book in 1 week,
Wow.
by the way. I wrote the first 2 books in the same year, and they both came out in the same year. But the first book took me 3 years to well, 2.5 years to write, because I was in a wheelchair when I was writing it. And then right when that one got published, I wrote the other one in 2.5. Anyway, on and on and on and on with this happiness thing. It came about because I was doing these speaking engagements, public speaking, with the first 2 books. And, I would kind of joke about the story and what had happened and everything. And people would be like, how can you be so happy? You lost everything. You got a divorce. You almost lost your house, your business. You had to shut it down and all the things. And for me, my pat answer was always, well, I really didn't have a choice. I had to get busy. So, I could either be, cranky pants, or I could make my job healing and getting through all this, and not be so heavy about it. But I didn't realize, Bret, and I think we're both this way. We're really different, weird people.
Yeah.
Most, most people wouldn't even, I mean, because I know other people that were in India when I was, and they could never get their life back on track. And just a brief side note, you guys, I was shot by terrorists in the 2008 Mumbai terrorist attack, and so that's what I keep kind of referring to. But now it feels like a Netflix movie that I watched, because I don't really identify with that being anymore. And what's so funny is I tell people, if you want to know who I am not, read my first 2 books, because even though I'm still me, it's like I'm more me today with the tools of access consciousness. So, the whole thing is people would be, how can you be so happy? And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to write a book about why I'm so happy, which was these tools. And so that's how this book came to pass. I wanted a book that would introduce people to access consciousness, that didn't know anything about it, that didn't, doesn't have the access speak in it and all this stuff. So if someone's coming to you, Bret, and goes like, what is this access stuff you keep doing? You can go, here,
Yeah.
this is what it's about. And then it's kind of a really easy way, very pragmatic. I basically throw myself under the bus, all the ways, that you can choose happiness, and all the ways that you may not want to, the tools, how they can work for you, how they can work against you, that kind of thing. So that leads me to I'm kind of curious. There are so many wonderful tools in access consciousness. Do you have favorites, or one that you maybe have a story about and how it changed your world? Or
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love that you have the happiness as just a choice hat in your camera thing, which is great.
props. Yeah, that is. It's right in the shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Fantastic. I love that, because it's so true. I mean, whatever you're going through, you can choose to be happy. And like with that, I think, one of my favorite all-time access tools is literally what is interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Yeah, everything is just an interesting point of view.
Right. Yeah, I did a money call this morning, and I kept repeating that one over and over again, because somebody would say, well, I have this money problem. And I go, well, interesting point of view. You have that point of view. Yeah. And, it's a judgment. It's like everything's actually a point of view, you guys.
Yeah. And we're so powerful that, just by your point of view alone, you change your whole reality. It's like you can put on rose-colored glasses, you can put on poo-colored glasses, which is what a lot of people do. You don't take on a point of view to have a greater world. Usually it's like, oh, this is crap. So then you have crap colored glasses that you see the world through. And doesn't that sound a lot like all of your families?
Right. Oh my gosh. It's such a true story. I mean, it's funny. I'll get together with my girlfriends that are maybe not so much access, and they try to outdo each other with, well, you think that's awful.
Yeah.
Look what happened to me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is not a contest.
I had the best one for a while with the environmental sensitivities I was going through. So I got a lot of good misery points for that. Yeah, exactly. Nobody can top that one.
Good job. So how did you use the tool to get out of it then?
Yeah. So basically it's like really choosing what points of view I was going to take about things. And I remember when I first found out that, anything was changeable and I could use energy to literally change anything. I would go into the things that had that I had gotten lots of different like my body would have these reactions to. And then I would go in and I would smell a bit of it and then I would just laugh. I would make myself laugh. And I was changing the response within my body to have it be something that was of laughter instead of, oh shit, we're gonna have another reaction. Because that, oh shit, we're gonna have another reaction actually was part of what was creating it. Yeah. So
Wow.
so that was a big part of it, to actually choose my mood and choose how I was going out of reaction and into action.
Wow, Brett, you mean you can actually change it with an action?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You don't have to do clearings forever, or you don't have to you don't sit around and pray or meditate. It's like literally being like, you know what, I'm actually going to change this. Instead of getting all freaked out, I'm gonna laugh.
I love it. I love it. I recently had a client that told me that they really wanted to get out of coping mechanisms. And we had been working on this for quite a while. And, it's like when her family would upset her, the first thing she would do is, go unconscious with alcohol and food.
Hmm.
And she said, I really want to change this. I really want to change this. And the first thing I had to say to her, which she didn't like very much, is, if you really wanted to change, it would have already changed. So, what do you love about this that you're
Yeah.
not getting? And I finally went so far as to reach out to Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness. And it's his fault we're having this conversation. Thank you very much, Gary Douglas. He said, do they really want to change it? And I was like, no, they're really in love with their story.
Yeah.
And if you identify with this story, and don't make yourself wrong for it, people. I mean, if that's what's working for you, Brett and I are in total allowance. Okay,
Yeah.
just saying. But if you do really want to choose it, baby steps or whatever it is, you could do these steps like Brett was talking about, where he's like changing his body's pathways of how it receives these
Yeah.
different environmental smells. You know what? I'm going to laugh when I smell this. And then the receptors in the body go, oh, laughter. That changes everything. Instead of, oh my gosh, here we go again. I'm going to have these reactions. I'm going to have to lock myself in the room again. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is that simple, but you've got to take some actions to get there. It isn't just, a vision board, you guys. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Exactly.
great much.
Yeah. And when and it was really, I think, on that topic of actually acknowledging what you love about it, that was one of the hardest things for me, was with everything I had put my family through and my body and all the people I knew through, with what I was choosing. It was it was the one thing where I was like, God, I actually created this. And when I got to that, I was like, oh shit, what's everyone going to think? Nobody cares. Nobody will hear that. Nobody listens to the fact. Nobody I know listens to the fact. I've told them, I'm like, oh yeah, it turns out I created the whole thing. And they're like, next topic. And it's it doesn't even register. But one of the things that I loved about creating this illness was that I didn't have to go and get a normal job. I basically, it gave me the place where I could um, flunk out of college. I didn't want to complete college anyway at this point. I
Mhm.
was done.
Right.
And I didn't have to go and get a normal job, which was going to be what my parents were going to be on my back about after flunking out of college.
Oh, wow. Yeah. How did you get past that? I'm just curious.
Well, it was a year of being really sick, and then once I started finding yeah, exactly. And then once I found access and stuff, I started doing that. I created my own business with for a while. I was doing different psychic readings and stuff like that,
Same.
and then I
Yeah.
started doing bars classes, and my parents were just so thrilled that I was able to get out of the house and not have to wear a mask anymore and not do hours of oxygen tank a day.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
then, they were, and do all these different IV treatments and stuff like that, and all these other different treatments. Like, they were just so thrilled that they didn't care if I got a job or not. So
They just wanted their son to be alive and well.
exactly. Yes.
That's nice. That's very
Yeah.
nice.
So that's how I got past.
Wow. So you can acknowledge that you created all that crap because you didn't want to finish college and have a normal job.
Yeah. Also, my grandpa had died earlier that year, and that really took a toll on me, because he was one of the very few people in my life that didn't judge me. And yeah, and so when he left, there was a bit of a rocky time until a couple years later, when I ended up getting a private session with the access stuff, and we basically detached my now deceased grandpa from me. And then everything changed after that. All the sensitivities went away, and so if you've got
You should write a book, Bret. You should write a book.
Yes, that's a really good idea.
That's my new I have a new specialty class, you guys, and I'm announcing it for the very first time. It's a creative writing class using the Access tools.
That's a great idea.
I would love for you. I mean, I have to say, you guys, I mean, I know Bret I've known him for quite a while now. I mean, I discovered Access in 2003. I didn't really leap in until 2011. And I'm not sure which class that I actually first met you in, because I did a lot of them online at first. Because I had a job that I had to kind of pretend like I was doing while I was taking the classes. So I couldn't leave. Anyway, what's going to create the most and all the things. But I mean, I can really perceive, I didn't know all these things about Bret, you guys. And your story alone is so inspiring and such a contribution. I could perceive it being a book, because how many people out there in the world are struggling with things they think they can't change physically, that they don't know they can create greater or create past it. So I don't know. Maybe you want to take my creative writing class, Bret. Maybe you want to host me. You could host me.
That's great.
I don't know.
I love how that works, where you're just like, all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. Okay, I'm doing this, and this, and this, and this, and this.
I know. Gary actually created the name for the class for me, because I was trying to find a way to include everything and not make it just about writing books. Because I always have people going, how can you write books so easily? And I'm like, I don't know. It's a co-creation. It's like you hear the book's whispers, and then you ask what's required, all the things. It's a lot of fun, you guys. So wow. Interesting point of view. Any other tool? Was there another tool that really helped you get through all that stuff?
I mean, just keep going forward. I mean, there's always going to be some possibility to choose something, and you just really have to continue to be in the question. And like, anytime you have a pesky, conclusion or point of view come up, you use that tool of, okay, interesting point of view. I have this point of view, which using that tool allows you to have some space. Because like, you're actually, a lot of times we function from having a point of view, but then also being in resistance to having that point of view. Like, it's kind of like being a teenager, you grow up and, you see your parents and you're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. My dad can shoot a basketball. That's the coolest thing ever. And then, you get to being a teenager where it's like, fuck you, dad. You're the lamest person ever. But it's like, and then, you go through, and then as an adult, you're like, okay, well, I guess you're pretty cool. And
all of a sudden your dad's cool again. I do get that.
Exactly. Like, that's like, you start up with the alignment and agreement with their reality. Like, oh, I'd like to be that when I grow up. And then teenage years, you go into the resistance and reaction. But when you do resistance and reaction, you don't let go of that original alignment and agreement. You're just fighting against what you've already chosen without changing it.
Oh, I love this. Wow.
So when you do interesting point of view, you let go of the resistance, you let go of the place where you've originally took that point of view, where you're just allowing yourself to be. And then it's basically like, okay, would I like to continue to have this point of view, or would I like to choose something different?
Right.
And that's what really gives you that space where you can choose something totally different. Like, like when I went into the closet or whatever and smelled in and chose to laugh instead of freaking out, which is resistance and reaction to the point of view I had already taken.
That makes so much sense to me. I love the way you put it. I call it going down the rabbit hole syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
Just- you feel like you don't have a choice, so you just keep spiraling down. And I have lost a lot of friends because I am not willing to go down the rabbit hole with them.
Hmm.
I mean, not that I impale them with access and try to facilitate them out of it either. I really am an allowance of whatever they want to choose. You'd be surprised when they try to pull me into their trauma drama and I'm not willing to go there. I'm suddenly the biggest asshole on the planet. Well, your life is just so much better than my life. And you get to travel all over the world. And you couldn't possibly know what I'm going through. And it was so funny because I remember one time specifically when this happened, and on the radio comes on that song. I can't even remember who wrote the song. Wouldn't it be good to be in your shoes, even if it was for just one day? Wouldn't it be cool to not lap your light away? I don't know the words.
Yeah.
And then, I don't want to be here no more. And I'm like, oh my God. That was the energy of it. And when that song came on, I just busted out laughing because I'm like, wow. I not only can I just pop into song, I can actually create the moment of the energy.
Yeah.
Uh, we are such powerful creators, you guys. If you're willing to acknowledge it and choose it, what could you create and generate for your life and living? You know?
Exactly. Because when you, and that's when you actually take the reins of your own life, when you're willing to acknowledge that you are the source for the creation of everything that's shown up in your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how Gary says you can change your stars.
Yeah.
Like you're born with a certain construct, you chose this family and they happen to be half Jewish and half whatever, Catholic, whatever.
Yeah.
And you really have to go down the same road and have the same job as your parents or all the things, or can you change your stars? And maybe you actually chose your family to show you that you could outcreate your life.
Yeah.
What if you looked at it that way instead of, oh, this is my lot in life and I have to do it this way because it's expected and all the things. I mean, how rigid is that? How much form and structure is in that keeps you stuck in this finite postage stamp life? Whereas what if you could create beyond it and the world was your oyster? You could choose anything.
Yeah. All you gotta do is ask for it and be willing to follow what shows up.
I love it. Wow. That's fabulous. Hey, so Brett, do you have any classes coming up or things you're putting in the works?
Well, I have lots of stuff coming in the works at the moment. For basically the past year and a half, I have worked behind the scenes on a lot of the advanced access classes, like nonstop during COVID. So I've had to
Great story, you guys.
I put my own facilitation stuff on the back burner, but now is the time where that has been easing up. All the tons of access classes going on. So I am now starting to put out more of my own classes into the world, and yeah. So one of my like a couple of the things that I'm putting out there are I'm a Being You certified facilitator, which is a specialty of access. It's like it's amazing. I've been a part of that program for the last like 5 years since the beginning. And oh, there it is, the book, Being You, Changing the World. It's based on that book. And the classes are some of the most fun things I've ever facilitated because you get to go beyond the image, the facade, all those things. When you talk to people and like they just have tons of barriers and like you know that there's something behind there, but you can't ever seem to get to it with people.
Right.
And
Yeah, I
it's
don't
like,
know what you're talking about at all.
exactly, yes. You take out the shovel, you're like, come on, I know you're in there somewhere. And they're like, hey, stop, I'm paying
I
lots of
look
money for this
like
wall. Yeah,
I look like
exactly.
my mask. Don't make me take my mask off, please.
My
People
mask
know
is
who
so
I am.
pretty. Yeah.
They'll hate me. I don't
Yeah.
know. Love
But
it.
it's like where you get to actually start interacting with the world beyond those masks and filters and actually get to be that which invites other people to come beyond that as well and live as who they are and not have to hide the magic and the magical being that they are anymore.
I love that. So that's one of your classes that's coming up.
Yeah. I'm doing I'm going to be doing a being you in relationship class, which is like a specialty in being you. I'm also a relationships done different facilitator, which,
Same.
yeah, which that is like, it's another access class about relationships, and it's amazing. I've had a relationship for the last 9.5 years with the
Oh,
amazing
wow.
Georgia Watson.
She is amazing. I'm going to have her on the show later, you guys.
Yes. And so we both became relationships then different facilitators. And going into that class, like we had never looked at any kind of class that like with relationship except for like access ones. And this is also an access class, but like taking this class, we were both so surprised about the breadth and depth of it, that it's not just about how to have a perfect right relationship. It's actually exploring the depths of actually having intimacy with you, like
Mhm.
vulnerability and honor and trust and gratitude and allowance for you.
Mhm.
And it's like it's just amazing how, when every single time I've taken one of those RDD classes and facilitated it, the level of intimacy with myself and my ability to create with myself and not go into judgment, it's just skyrocketed. And that goes out to all of the different relationships, family, friends, colleagues. With my relationship with Georgia, like all of it changes.
I love that. You put it so beautifully. Yeah, that I just recently taught my first, I've been doing several one-day classes, but I taught my first master class, and it
Mm.
was geared towards Turkey. So these women had a very different point of view about relationships because of, their history and, family and lineage and all the things that are put into place. And they were so brave to step out of that and actually be willing to look at creating relationships differently. They were all in arranged marriages.
Wow.
So it's when you're teaching a class like this that it's a game changer, you guys, to a culture that feels they have no choice.
Mhm.
And imagine, I mean, these women it was all women in my class, were overwhelmed by, wow, I can actually change this. And looking at creating, because here's what I found, Brett, I don't know if this is true for you. A lot of people are scared to actually take the class because they're afraid, okay, I have this knowing this relationship sucks, but I would rather stay in the relationship that sucks than not be in one, or be looked at as a loser, or leave this person, where they just automatically assumed that once they take this class, that's going to be the outcome.
Yep.
When it's never been the outcome so far for me. I've actually had one couple that was divorcing, and they decided to look at it differently, that
Yeah.
perhaps they needed to live in two different houses. And then they would get together for date nights, but they would stay married. And it
Wow.
was the coolest thing. I remember I was so excited that I called Brendan Watt and Simone Milasas, called them both because I was like, and they're actually the creators of that specialty class, Relationship Done Different. And they wrote a book also called Relationship, Do You Really Want One?
Yeah.
And they used to be in relationship or creationship for 8 years. And then they uncreated it because they realized it wasn't creating more, but they're still tight. They're still friends. They did all the PR for the book together as, single people. And it just goes to show that, hey, you don't have to hate your partner, even if you do undo the creationship. But I was so excited. I was like, you guys, I never dreamed that I could facilitate something that could create so much in these people's worlds. Thank you for creating this class. It's been amazing. So, yeah.
Yep. Oh, and that reminds me, that Brendan Watt, one of the people who's created Relationships Done Different, he has a Relationship Done Different 2.5 day masterclass starting on July 23rd.
Oh,
And
wow. That's
yeah,
coming up.
coming up
'Cause
very soon. So super
yeah,
soon.
you guys are going to have to choose it quickly because today is the 20th and this is going out on the 21st, but you still have time for last minute creators.
Yes, and there will be more RDD classes with Brendan and Simone and Rudrani and I and Georgia. Yes. So and then also Georgia, Georgia. Yeah. We one other thing, I mentioned the Being You classes. Hello, that's a microphone. Uh,
Being silly, yo. We can't have. We're silly, happy idiots. Anyway, please continue.
yes, Dr. Dane here, the guy that I had first heard that I was in resistance to because he was a doctor.
Yes.
Who created the Being You Changing the World book and the class. He has a Being You Changing the World 3.5-day class that starts on July 29th.
Okay, cool. I'll make sure all the links are in for
Online.
you guys, so it'll be easy for you to find. Okay.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, Rudrani.
Not at all. I share the love.
Yes, and I'm involved in the creation of both of those classes. So that's so
Yay!
fun.
Woo! Yeehaw. I have taken and taught the of course relationship done different, and I've taken the Being You twice from the Dr. Dane here, and there are several other facilitators that facilitated as well. He is the source of that book and of that creation, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So whatever you do, don't choose it.
Yes. So fun. Oh my gosh. It's just so great to watch people's just whole worlds light up and their eyes light up and just them becoming more of who they are.
Yeah. And creating their life instead of just being in that automatic pilot kind of thing where we feel like we have a no choice universe.
Yeah. Instead of suffering it.
Right. Yeah. I'm just going to close myself up in my room. I swear I'm telling your story. Your story is so fabulous.
Thank you.
Book. I don't know. I could be hearing the whispers of a book coming, Bret. I don't know. Could happen. Anyway, I'm going to pick on him for a while on that one, you guys. Maybe we'll get him back on. He'll be like announcing his new book. Who knows what else is possible? So, okay.
Amazing.
Where could people find you once these classes are actually posted? Where would they go?
They can find me at bretrockmore.com.
Well, that makes it super simple.
Yes, it's much more simple than my original last name, which I would tell you, and then you would not be able to find me.
Right. Well, Rudrani Devi is also a DBA because my name, okay, you know, I'm not afraid to say it. Are you ready? Because this is a mouthful.
I'm ready.
Andrina Gaetana Fatima Barragona Spina.
Oh,
I know. Most people just call me Rue or the happy lady. So much easier. So yeah. So I did a little thing as well. You know, I've been several different people in this lifetime, and it looks like this one might stick. I don't know. Or who knows? I might keep out creating it. I don't have a point of view anymore.
Well, you know, maybe you're Jewish, because you know, in the Jewish culture, you know, if you you know, when you change your name, you know, you change your name in order to have like a Hollywood name or something, you know.
Ah, very interesting.
Like if you look at anybody in Hollywood who's like, you might even suspect is Jewish, you like look at their Wikipedia, and like if like Jonah Hill, for instance, it's like Jonah Greenbaumstein or something like that, you know, like some really Jewish name that they changed to not sound so Jewish.
Yeah, that was the thing that they did in Hollywood for the longest time, wasn't it?
Yep, they still do it.
And they still do it. Yeah. So what made you, I mean, I'm sorry, we're going to end soon, but I'm just curious, what made you choose Rockmore? Because you rock more?
Well, you know, I had been in the question about it for like maybe like a month or two, and George and I would just come up with different names. We're like, no. And then like one day I was like just driving, and I heard a whisper in my ear, like Rockmore. And I was like, oh, is that like, oh, what would that create? And then I was like, oh, cool, I'm going to do it.
Following your knowing. You know, it's interesting going back to that RDD class that I did for Turkish ladies.
Yeah.
There was one time where I asked them, you know what? Ask your body, truth. Are you really Turkish? And they all got a no. Isn't that crazy?
That's amazing. Yes.
Yeah. I'd never thought to ask that before, because they were like, well, you know, we're Turkish. We have to suffer. And I went, and it felt heavy. And I was like, wait a minute. Y'all ask your bodies right now. Truth, are we Turkish? And they all started laughing. It was just hilarious, because, you know, what makes you feel lighter? You know, if you're laughing, then it's got to be true because it makes you feel lighter. What's heavy is not true for you. That's another tool in Access, y'all. So, and there's tons of resources, free resources on YouTube. So just go there and to your heart's delight. Do you have a YouTube channel by any chance?
Not really.
Okay. Okay,
Like,
never mind.
sort of.
I
I think I've uploaded something since like 2013. So.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I have 3 YouTube channels. I have one for singing as well, but this will be living on my CF YouTube feed. And yeah, and I'll make sure to get all the things to you as well, Brett, so you can share them around. I just thought if you wanted to put it on your YouTube, you could, but
Yes. Oh, also speaking of YouTube, Georgia and I were part of something phenomenal that Dr. Dane put together called the International Being You Day.
oh yeah.
And so that is on YouTube. And if it's 7.5 hours of just cry fest, like,
Oh my God. I
you
did
know,
it in
when
real time, you guys. I did it in real time, and I was like bawling all day long.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, "What is going on? Why are you so sad?" I said, "No, this is joy. This is
it's
joy
so beautiful.
exploding out of my eyes." You know, it's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll put that link there too. I got my
Cool.
work cut out for me. All right. Well, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Is there anything you want to leave our listeners with before we say bye-bye?
I think your listeners are fully capable of going out and choosing whatever they desire to choose at this point. I mean, they always have been, but they might at least know it now.
Yes, I think so too. We've given you guys quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, maybe listen to this 2 or 3 times, or, or share it with your friends. Hey, yeah, if you guys like this podcast, hit the like button down there and
And
underneath all of this.
subscribe on YouTube.
Yes.
That's a
And
big
subscribe
one.
on the YouTubes and share with those that you think you can, perceive that they could get something from this. Because there are quite a few cranky pants people out there in the world that maybe could use a little happy and might be willing to get their happy on. I don't know. What else is possible, y'all? Thank you, Brett.
Thank you, Rudrani. Thank you,
I
everyone.
adore you. And I look forward to playing with you in person one day real soon.
Yes. Ditto. Yes. See you soon someday.
Okay. Ciao, ciao. For now, y'all.
Bye.